in Japan between representatives of the White Dragon Society, Asian secret societies, Japanese military intelligence, the Yamaguchi Gumi Ninkyo Organization, and the Sumiyoshi Kai Ninkyo Organization. The meeting was held because more than 500,000 people were murdered in Japan by use of toxic vaccines. And the current people running for prime minister are not talking about it. They're trying to pretend like it didn't happen. And that's not going to be allowed to slide. We made a decision that the person to be held responsible for this is the fake U.S. Ambassador Rahm Emanuel. And we're, as a journalist, I know nothing gets done unless there's a deadline. So we're giving him a deadline of October 1st to either leave the country or we will arrest him. And this is backed by the military, white hats, as well as MI6. And this is not just about Japan, okay? But sticking to Japan for a bit more. Basically, what's happening is Rahm Emanuel is currently trying to install a Tavistock mind-controlled puppet by the name of Shinjiro Koizumi, who's the son of Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi, who handed over control of all of Japan's listed companies to BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, the Khazarian mafia fronts for people like David Rockefeller Jr. Now, the only group they control now is the Inagawa Kai based in Yokohama, because Koizumi Shinjiro is a member of that gang, and also his faction was funded or is funded by drug money coming from Lord James Sassoon from the British upper house of, or the House of Lords. We have personally confronted Sassoon about bribing Japanese politicians with cash, and he has not denied it. So, we're on the record for this. And the other thing is, in Japan, the person most responsible is Prince Hitachi. Okay, he was aware that this was a mass culling event, and so is the Three-Legged Crow Secret Society. They seem to think that they have to reduce the population of Japan to 70 million. And they say they're being threatened by earthquake weapons. Now, we made it perfectly clear that if Japan is hit with an earthquake weapon in the Nankai Trough, there will be retaliation in the form of a hit on La Palma, which will cause a 100-meter tsunami to hit the U.S. East Coast and the South Coast of Europe. So it's a Mexican standoff. In other words, they have to do something. We're sick and tired of this. Now, the other thing is, this whole show, this fake presidential show in the United States is really getting absurd, with a second, obviously fake assassination attempt against Donald Trump. I mean, they released a picture where his leg is missing because of CG, and he's wearing a suit and tie. I don't know, but people don't usually play golf in the hot Florida weather wearing a suit and tie, and certainly not the real Trump. So this is all this fakery that's going on. Meanwhile, 159 countries have decided to stop using the US dollar as of probably start in October. So it really is some kind of end game. And we understand that there are families behind the scenes like the Orsini, the Farnese, the Medici. We don't care who you are. This has to end. Okay? Things are happening. There will be consequences. You cannot just murder tens of millions of people and expect there to be no consequences. Already, as you know, many people are being taken down. The big underground base in Los Angeles was blown up, and more is coming. This is war, folks, and we are not going to sit passively by. I'm going to personally go on October 1st to the U.S. Embassy, accompanied by representatives of those groups I mentioned, to arrest Rahm Emanuel unless I hear from them before that. This show has to end. We cannot continue with this travesty. Now, getting to the news, of course, everybody's looking at the pager incident in Lebanon, where I think latest is over 4,000 people were maimed by exploding pagers. Uh, this is something that is potentially much more dangerous than that. Now, the people ultimately behind this are the Black Sun organization, and they keep saying that they will continue causing mayhem until a world republic is announced. So they're going to try to keep starting war with Russia. They're going to, do other things. And I need to warn you. I made some calls to Mossad sources and other people about these things. Okay, now. Uh, the lithium batteries themselves are not that much of a danger. They can explode and maybe blow your ear off or something. But the important is, if you know about a thing is, if you know about the work of Dr. Gavreau, uh, he developed a system of sounds that could kill people. And this military technology was so horrific that both sides in World War I agreed to stop using it. But they can potentially hijack your phone to issue a subsonic sound that will kill people. And I know that Apple is controlled by white hats. That's not going to happen, but I wouldn't guarantee it for all the Galaxy or Samsung phones out there. Some of them are hackable, and it would be a electromagnetic attack. Again, this can be traced to the Black Sun organization, and they're gonna keep raising mayhem until a world republic is announced. That's what they're saying. I'm just passing on the message. Now, the other thing I've noticed is that it looks like Elon Musk and his military backers are on the warpath. The EU commissioner who was trying to censor X in Europe was being forced to resign. And in Brazil, there were intentionally set fires all around the capital, Brasilia, and the main city of Rio de Janeiro that were threatening to destroy the cities. And suddenly, the Brazilian government backed down and agreed to allow X to start retransmitting in Brazil, and the EU is backing off from censorship. Now, I support Musk in fighting for freedom of information and freedom of the press and the truth, but the fact is that X is a limited hangout. They do still censor information, but what they're trying to do is channel the wish for freedom of information and the wish to rebel against the current establishment into a controlled opposition scenario. That's my understanding of that. I'll believe Musk more when he announces a switch to hydrogen, which is going to happen. It's just the obvious answer. So we are, in a state where things are coming to a head, and everybody must take personal action. This is no time to be passive, but we do know that a lot of these adrenochrome facilities are being taken down, and you'll see more earthquakes at a shallow depth, indicating underground bases are being removed. But we need to see it here on the surface. So we're going to ask the heads of the military to get off their asses and start doing something, finally. But it's going to happen. And I'm personally going to take action with the Asian societies and MI6, and we're going to go after these people, because we cannot have a system where leaders are blackmailed and compromised by videotapes of them torturing children in order to pursue a satanic agenda. Also, the Iranians contacted me and provided me with some very interesting information. If you go to the Chabad Lubavitch satanic website, they have a Jewish calendar that purports to go back to the year 5000 whatever. In fact, that calendar starts on the birth date of Sabbatai Zevi, and you cannot find a converted date before that, because that's where it's mathematically set. So the Chabad has made it clear that they're Sabbataian Frankist Jews, and these are the people who want to kill 90% of humanity and enslave the rest. And they are a visible target. They are not Jewish. They worship Satan. They are as far as Jews are concerned, they're heretics. And that's a visible target we need to go after. And this includes whatever offices and facilities they have in Japan. They will be targeted. Now, I noticed a UN vote, condemning Israel for crimes, which is, genocide. It's ongoing. And the list of countries that voted against it, in other words, the list of countries that supported genocide, are a list of countries that are 100% controlled by the Khazarian mafia. So we have a military target in these countries, and they are Argentina, Paraguay, Czechia, Hungary, Israel, Malawi, Micronesia, Palau, Papua New Guinea, Tonga, Tuvalu, and the United States. So a couple of Eastern European countries, a couple of South American countries, a bunch of Pacific islands, and of course, the fake U.S. corporation in Washington, D.C. So it's down to a very small number, and they are being cut off and sanitized, and they're running out of money. So hopefully this won't last much longer. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. Before we get into our questions today, I wanted you to address several comments from last week's video. Several people indicated you kept looking to the side of the screen as if sending signals someone was in there with you. Some of them are concerned for your safety. Was everything okay?
I'm trying to remember. I think what happened was a lady friend entered the house and was, standing there quietly but drawing my attention. But no, I'm under no threat. I continue to be an independent actor. So no, don't worry about that.
Excellent. All right, let's get into our questions for today. We have our first question that says, I would like to hear more about David Ben-Gurion ordering the assassination of JFK. Maybe that's why Trump would not release the information. It doesn't surprise me since they tried to sink the USS Liberty and machine gun the sailors trying to abandon ship. Israel should have been immediately bombed for it and their air force destroyed. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, well, David Ben-Gurion was taking orders from the Federal Reserve Board. And the reason is because after the Cuban Missile Crisis, whistleblowers like Benjamin Friedman came forth and said there's a cult controlling the Federal Reserve Board that is trying to start Armageddon. They're trying to start all-out nuclear war to carry out this plan, to kill 90% of humanity and enslave the rest. So John F. Kennedy decided to take control of the U.S. dollar away from these people. He managed to get 144,000 tons of gold from Indonesia, Indonesian President Sukarno, who was the sort of top Asian royal, to back Kennedy dollars and take away control from the Federal Reserve Board. And that's why he was killed. So Ben-Gurion was basically taking his orders from the Rothschilds and the Octagon Group in Switzerland, who again are Sabbatean Frankists who want to, start an artificial Armageddon, as I keep repeating, and other people are now confirming. And the reason people like Trump don't talk about it is because they and their families are threatened, and because they still control the dollar printing machine, and they all want to get their mana from the machine. Okay, next question.
Hi, Ben. The United Nations and its partners announced it has vaccinated against polio more than 560,000 children under the age of 10 in the Gaza Strip. Given what we know about what's in these vaccines, how was this able to happen?
Well, clearly there's still some bad actors in control on the ground in Israel, and I think at the end of the day, it's going to require the Turkish and Egyptian armies to move in there and arrest these people. And don't worry about nuclear blackmail, because they're not going to use the Samson auction because they don't want to die. And that's what will happen if they try to do that. Israel would be, one single bomb could completely obliterate Israel. So they're not going to do that. It's a false threat. So please send in your armies and arrest those people and restore the nation of Judea. Next question.
Hi, Ben. At various times, you have cited people like Anna von Reitz, who talks about various jurisdictions of state to U.S. government and layers of contracts and treaties that have removed any true connection that the people have to their oversight authority. And that's how the restoration of this original system would be best for the U.S. world. Do you see this restoration back to the original past as being the best way to proceed? Or that there will be an entirely new model of people to legislation that will be put into place once this is all settled out?
I think we need to start fresh, and there's a huge labyrinth of past laws and whatever, but we have certain basic principles we all agree upon, and things like the private property and freedom, and also the need for the government to serve the people and take care of things like roads and schools and defense. There's things we all agree upon, and I think we need to start afresh based on that, and use the best models from around the world to build a new system. So, for example, I keep proposing a economic planning system that was originally pioneered by Nazi Germany, but then taken over by Japan and then now China, which creates much, much faster economic growth. And that's why the Chinese are way bigger now than the rest of the world economically. Don't listen to the fake statistics about the US being the #1 economy. Just for example, China produces twice as much electricity, and that's the basic way of measuring an economy. So it's at least twice as big as the US. They make 3 times more smartphones, 22 times more concrete, 13 times more steel, et cetera, et cetera. So unless we reform our economic governance, we're going to all be working for the Chinese. It's just a matter of time. But I think we need a fresh start, and we need to copy and improve upon the best models in the world right now. Next question.
Hi, Ben. If Kamala's electoral vote exceeds Trump's electoral vote this fall, what response, if any, will the White Hats do to either rectify the situation, validate the true vote of the people, or put the brakes on the process, or will something else occur?
I think that there will be war inside the United States if they try to steal this election for Kamala. It's not going to be allowed to happen. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. In the United States, there is a Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai who is attempting to make a bid to the presidency. He's a very small runner, but has a lot of good ideas. Have you heard of him or have any thoughts on his policy?
No, I don't have information. I'll look it up and I'll take a look at what his ideas. But the problem is right now, the way the system is, it's not really a democracy where people get to choose the best person with the best ideas. It's big ingrained factions, and I think right now it's a battle between the military-industrial complex, white hats who are using Donald Trump as an avatar, and the owners of the big mega corporations who are trying to stay in power with Kamala Harris. And anybody else, no matter how qualified they are and how good their ideas are, will not be able to prevail under the current system. But I will look at his ideas. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself today, and I hope to see you again next week.